this expression, you defined those three-brained beings whom you always set apart from others as if they deserved objective contempt. Be so kind as always and explain to me the real meaning and exact sense of this word. Whereupon Beelzebub, with a smile inherent to him, said as follows. Concerning the typicality of the three-brained beings for whom I have adopted this verbal definition, I shall explain it to you at the proper time, but meanwhile know that this word designates every already definitized common presence of a three-brained being, both those consisting only of the single planetary body, as well as those whose higher being bodies are already coated in them, and in which, for some reason or other, data have not been crystallized for the divine impulse of objective conscience. Having said only this, in defining the word hasnamas, Beelzebub continued to speak. During my detailed studies of the mentioned religious teaching, I also clarified that after this sacred individual had become finally coated with the presence of a three-brained being there, and had seriously pondered how to fulfill the task that had been laid upon him from above, he decided to attain this by means of the enlightenment of their reason. Here it must without fail be noticed that by that time there had already been crystallized in the presence of Saint Buddha, as the same detailed researches of mine had made clear, a very clear understanding that in the process of its abnormal formation, the reason of the three-centered beings of the planet Earth results in a reason called instincto terabelnian, that is, a reason which functions only from corresponding shocks from without. Yet, in spite of this, Saint Buddha decided to carry out his task by means of the peculiar reason of theirs, that is, this reason peculiar to the three-centered beings there, and therefore he first of all began informing their peculiar reason with objective truths of every kind. Saint Buddha first assembled many of the chiefs of that group and spoke to them as follows. Beings possessing presences similar to that of the All-Creator himself, by certain all-enlightened and all-justly guiding most sacred final results of the actualization of everything existing in the universe, my essence has been sent to you to serve as a helping factor in the striving of each of you to free yourselves from the consequences of those abnormal being properties which, in view of highly important common cosmic needs, were implanted in the presences of your ancestors, and, passing by heredity from generation to generation, have reached you also. Saint Buddha spoke again about this a little more in detail, but only to certain beings there initiated by him. This second time, as it turned out, he then expressed himself in the following words. Beings with presences for actualizing the hope of our common Father. Almost at the beginning of the rise of your race, there occurred in the process of the normal existence of the whole of our solar system an unforeseen accident which threatened serious consequences for everything existing. For the regulation of that common universal misfortune, there was then required, among other measures, according to the explanations of certain most high, most sacred individuals, a certain change in the functioning of the common presences of your ancestors. Namely, there was implanted into their presences a certain organ with special properties, owing to which everything external perceived by their whole presences, and transformed for their own coding, was afterwards manifested not in accordance with reality. A little later, when the normal existence of your solar system was stabilized, and the necessity for certain intentionally created abnormal actualizations had passed, our most all-gracious Common Father did not fail to give the command immediately to annul certain artificial measures, among which was the removal from the common presence of your ancestors of the now already superfluous organ Kundabuffer, with all its special artificial properties. And this command was immediately executed by corresponding sacred individuals who superintend such cosmic actualizations. After a considerable time had passed, it was suddenly revealed that although the properties of the said organ had indeed been removed from the presences of your ancestors by the mentioned most sacred individuals, yet nevertheless a certain lawfully flowing cosmic result, existing under the name of predisposition, and arising in every more or less independent cosmic presence owing to the repeated action in it of any function, had not been foreseen and destroyed in their presences. And so it turned out that owing to this predisposition, which began to pass by heredity to the succeeding generations, the consequences of many of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer began gradually to be crystallized in their presences. No sooner was this lamentable fact, which proceeded in the presences of the three-brained beings breeding on this planet Earth, first made clear, than by all gracious sanction of our Common Father, a suitable sacred individual was immediately sent here, so that, being coated with a presence like your own and having become perfected by objective reason under the conditions already established here, he might better explain and show you the way of eradicating from your presences the already crystallized consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer, as well as your inherited predispositions to new crystallizations. During the period when the said sacred individual coated with a presence like your own, and who had already attained to the age of a responsible three-centered being similar to yourselves, directly guided the ordinary process of the being existence of your ancestors, many of them did indeed completely free themselves from the consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer, and either thereby acquired being personally for themselves or became normal sources for the arising of normal presences of succeeding beings similar to themselves. But in consequence of the fact that before the period of the said sacred individual's appearance here, the duration of your existence had, owing to very many firmly fixed abnormal conditions of ordinary existence created by yourselves, already become abnormally short, and therefore the process of sacred Raskuarno had also very soon to occur to this sacred individual, that is to say, he also had, like you, to die prematurely. Then, after his death, the former conditions were gradually re-established there, owing on the one hand to the established abnormal conditions of ordinary being existence, and on the other hand to that maleficent particularity in your psyche called wiseacring. Owing to this said particularity in your psyche, the beings here, already of the second generation after the contemporaries of the mentioned sacred individual who had been sent from above, began gradually to change everything he had explained and indicated, and the whole of it was finally completely destroyed. Again and again the same was actualized by the most